Hey, it's a special crossover day. Our friend Brice from Locked On Rangers is going to join us. So we're going to ask about the Rangers. He's going to ask about the Angels, and it's going to be a beautiful time. It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And we thank you for making Locked On Angels your first listen every day. Every show is free and available on all platforms like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And the best way to help us out is by giving us a rate and a review. We appreciate that. And those watching on YouTube, make sure that you're subscribed and click the bell to be notified every time a new episode drops.
Thanks for being here with us for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Hey, coming up this week, we've got Fan Mail Friday, so make sure you get your questions in for that. We'd love to hear from you and answer your questions on Fan Mail Friday. But today, we've got a epic crossover with Locked On Rangers host Brice Paterik. We're going to be over there on Locked On Rangers. He's going to be here on Locked On Angels. We're asking each other the need-to-know questions about each team. What do Angel fans want to know about the Rangers? What do Ranger fans want to know about the Angels? And then we do a little trash talk. So you got to talk some trash, right? But Mike, I think it's time we get into that interview. So let's get to it. We've got 3 AL West fans in the house. 2 of them are Angel fans. One of them is a Texas Rangers fan. But we're all fans of baseball, and we're all fans of each other, I would say.
Yes, so. We are.
Yeah, for sure. You've got the Frisch Brothers here, the Super Halo Bros, Mike and John Frisch. We've got Brice Paterik from Locked On Rangers, and we're here to talk a little bit about each of our teams. And so I think it would be a good idea, if you wouldn't mind, Brice, we'd love to ask you a couple of questions about the Rangers, just from an Angel fan perspective, what we should know about this season. So, Mike, why don't you fire away with the first question for Mr. Brice Paterik there?
All right, Brice. So here's the Angel problem that we have as fans. We get our hopes up at the end of the year, and then in spring training, we think we're going to win the World Series, and then they let us down at about June or July. So my question to you is, what's the rhythm for Ranger fans? Because they haven't been too successful. We kind of been in the same box, playing in the same playground for a while. So what's the Ranger fan terrible rhythm, or is there a terrible rhythm for Ranger fans?
Really, lately, I think it feels a little different this year, which I'm sure just hearing those words for Angels fans, like, oh no, panic is setting in. Like I can't have hope. The Rangers, for the last few years, actually since I started hosting this podcast back in the start of 2019, they've been mostly kind of bad. My fandom really started in earnest like in 2010. It's kind of a happy coincidence. I just decided to get into baseball that year, and it was a good year to be a Texas Rangers fan. So I thought, it's always going to be
a couple
great.
good years there.
Very good, very heartbreaking ending, but I still stuck on. And, this year, I don't know, for the most part, the last few years, it's been like, yep, this is going to suck. It's going to hurt the whole time. And, but I'm going to enjoy watching it. And then I'm going to be sad when it's over. For now, it's like, okay, I'm like very extreme cautious optimism, because obviously there's a lot of, flags and balls in the air and things like that. But like, I don't know. This should be a fun season, and like my expectations aren't like, oh my gosh, the Rangers are gonna go win the World Series or anything, but just like this team isn't gonna suck. I think I'm really hoping unless things go really wrong. And you know what? I will take like good competitive baseball team, and like I'm noticing something about myself this offseason of like fighting with people, like people aren't respecting the Rangers enough. Like people don't think this team's good enough. And like for the most part of my show, it's been like people are disrespecting the Rangers, and they're right to, because my team sucks. But it's kind of fun to have that little people don't respect my team, and I think they're actually going to be good. Like it's kind of fun to just like have that kind of optimism again.
Yeah, that feels very familiar to us as well. Like, hey, we know what we got, and you just wait and see.
In the last, we did an all AL West crossover. I think it was right before y'all joined the network. We didn't have anybody. I think Sully was our token Angels stand-in.
Oh, that's not good.
We all just kind of trashed on the Angels, and then for the first, like we're like, oh, the Angels, they have some hopes. And for the first month, we're like, oh no, should we have not done that? And then like later, I'm like, no, we were right. We know the patterns of this team. We know how the AL West works.
Right.
was a little different last year with the Mariners actually doing something, and
Right.
now they got some real big heads on their shoulders for some reason. But
I'm glad you noticed.
I noticed.
They're so fun on Twitter.
They are very fun. I've officially have beef with the Mariners, just a fun, friendly beef. But it's like it was 1 year in 25 that y'all made the playoffs,
right?
And you won one 3-game series. Like just calm down a little bit, just a little bit.
Hey, I've been thinking about the Rangers offense over the offseason. And I mean, I know you guys got Corey Seager and Marcus Semien. I really like Adolis Garcia.
Yes.
But I also feel like I don't know enough about who I should be afraid of when they come to the plate, especially against the Angels. So what can you say regarding the Rangers offense? Because we know the pitching is totally revamped this season. We'll talk about that.
Thank the Lord.
I'm interested in the offense. How is that going to look for the Rangers?
I think last year the offense took a huge improvement. I mean, y'all know, being AL West fans, the Rangers traditionally for basically their entire history, it's just like bunch of big bats,
sluggers,
pitch
baby,
for crap, and they're gonna hit. And well, in 2020 and 2021, those were some of the most abysmal offensive teams that I have ever seen. And last year, the offense really took a step forward. I don't think people noticed as much because the starting pitching was so inconsistent. I mean, they had Martin Perez, who had that amazing year. They had John Gray, who, when he was healthy, he was pretty good. But the rest of their starting pitching was like fine to pretty bad. And it didn't really matter that the offense was much improved. But Nathaniel Lowe is a guy who like really deserves some recognition. Nationally, people don't realize how great a year he had last year.
Yeah.
He won the Silver Slugger at first base. Like that was a huge deal. He hit basically 380 for the entire second half. He had an OPS near 1100 in the month of August. Probably should have been AL Player of the Month over Alex Bregman, but still was like an absolute offensive force. And so the Rangers, I didn't love the trade when they traded for him because I thought, they got Ronald Guzman. It'll be fine. Like, what are they doing? Because they traded a bunch of like low-level prospects, and he was the kind of guy who's like, you need a lot of players and a lot of like guys with those low-level lotto tickets to like maybe work out for you. And so it didn't make sense for me trading for him at the time. But credit to the Rangers. They proved me wrong. Lowe was fantastic. Jonah Heim was all-star level for the first half. And Josh Young, who is a guy, I went to Texas Tech, so he is my boy. I've seen him since he was a freshman there.
Nice.
And he is finally healthy in his spring training. He had 2 different major injuries the last 2 spring trainings, one that took him out until June, one that took him out until the beginning of August last year. He is finally there. He's going to be the everyday third baseman, and I think he's going to make a big impact for this offense. So the offense is pretty darn good outside of the middle infield, who is fantastic. And I think the depth really doesn't get enough credit. I think Robbie Grossman, who's going to be probably hitting somewhere between 7th and 8th or 9th or whatever, he's not sexy, but I think he's what this team needs. It's just having somebody down there that can turn the lineup over, do good at bats, and get on base. Like I am very quickly approaching. I'm too optimistic about my team.
Well, it's funny because I think we run into the same issue with the Angels in terms of, oh, you guys didn't get any of the huge free agents. And it's like, well, we've got basically the top 2 players in the game.
Yeah.
And we
Not
need
basically,
a support.
you do.
We do.
The top 2 by far.
Yeah.
But we need
Aaron Judge, but like,
we need a supporting cast, and that's and a supporting cast is not always the big sexy player. So we can definitely relate to you in that regard. Jonah Heim needs to change his name to Jonah Heim owns Anaheim, or that needs to be his slogan because he always seems to get the best of us.
Yep. And I think Shohei as well. Like the 2 Rangers players who do well against Shohei just kind of randomly are Taylor Hearn and
Yes.
Jonah Heim. I don't know what it is, but those 2 they got his
players
number.
like that. You know what it is? Because Jonah Heim came over from the A's, and the A's always have players like
Always.
that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Always the A's.
That's what it is. It's that residual A's magic.
So let's talk about the starting pitching,
Yeah.
Brice, because they are very much improved. And having Jacob deGrom on this team is really exciting, I'm sure, for Ranger fans. So talk to us about how you're feeling about that. Are you nervous about injuries? And do you think that this starting pitching staff is going to be one of the best in Rangers history?
I think it is. I think it's right up there. I mean, the depth is really incredible. I mean, 1 through 6, they have like 6, I'd say 7 legitimate guys who could be, major league capable starters. DeGrom, he did have that setback with left side tightness when he came into camp, but actually just today, Wednesday, he threw his first live bullpen, touched 100 miles an hour, and just
I was going to say, where's the DEFGROM meter these days? That was so great.
We're at DEFGROM 5, the lowest level of DEFGROM preparedness. Feeling good. Should get in about 3 spring training starts. It seems like that's going to be the next deal. Eovaldi is having also left side tightness. Also, Rangers center fielder Leody Taveras also had a left oblique injury. So it was like 3 left side tightnesses.
What are these guys doing?
I don't know what the left side is going on with these guys, but Andrew Heaney has been very healthy. Martin Perez has been healthy. Gray had like a little bit of a setback, but he's healthy. And obviously there are big injury concerns with everybody, but I think that people really overthought the DeGrom injuries. I mean, he's got not a whole lot of wear and tear on his arm. He didn't start pitching until he was a junior in college, didn't make his big league debut till he was 26. And really just the last 2 years have been the only years that he's been injured. But meanwhile, everyone sees Carlos Rodon, who's been hurt all the time forever and has won. This is literally his first healthy season. Like, no shade to Rodon. I think he's great. And I would have liked him on the Rangers as well. But, like, none of those concerns are being put on anybody else. And same with Justin Verlander, who's 40 and missed all of 2 years.
Yeah.
And, like, DeGrom missed parts of 2 years and is 5 years younger. And it's just like, I don't know. Maybe it's just I've been reading too much of John Heyman and his New York Post nonsense.
No kidding.
There's your problem.
Yeah, that's the answer right there.
Part of me is just I wanted to get mad, and he's really good at inducing some emotions.
Amen to that.
But yeah, I'm excited about this rotation.
We got to talk about the Heen dog because he's a former Angel, was with us for a long time. Then he went to the Dodgers, and of course their Dodgers pitching magic machine that they have out there. We have the same hope for Tyler Anderson. And so it feels like if we're going to hope for that for Tyler Anderson, we have to believe that Heaney will probably come out of that Dodger system strong as well. How do you feel about him?
I'm really excited about him. He's probably going to be the number 5 starter in this rotation. I mean,
that's where he should be because he was like 2 for us.
Right, yeah. I mean, like last year he would have been like 2 or 3. And
sure.
Like just having 5 deep of like, these are solid grown adults in the rotation. Like that's awesome. Like Jake Odorizzi, who was like mostly fine. I remember being really annoyed by the Astros because he was like their number 5 or 6 starter. And every time he'd get on the hill, they were like, ugh, this guy sucks so much. He's so terrible. And he had like a 3.5 ERA, right? Like 5 innings. Like, I would kill for that as much.
Right. Take him. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like, I'm excited for Heaney. Tyler Anderson, I thought that was a really good signing for y'all.
We're
and the
happy
fact that y'all also offered Martin Perez kind of around that contract, I thought that was a really smart. I'm really glad the Rangers were able to keep him because I love Martin and I really think that he is a different kind of pitcher because Martin is the kind of pitcher the only thing the Rangers have done really well in those down years is find guys who were kind of like that kind of former top prospects around like 28 to like 32, kind of tweak a few things with them and turn them into really good players. Mike Minor was one like that. He got top 10 in Cy Young votes. Lance Lynn was a guy like that. Kyle Gibson was an all-star for the first time in his career. Like the Rangers did that really well with quite a few guys. And I didn't really think of Martin Perez like that, but he kind of fit that exact mold. It's just because like I'd seen Martin Perez at the Rangers. He had been that with the Rangers for so many years. Like, well, if they couldn't fix him then, but they've changed some things. And I am honestly, man, I'm getting way too excited about my team.
Rightfully so. Hey, we got more questions. Brice is going to interrogate us about the Angels. And then we're going to talk about who is each team's biggest rival in the AL West. We're going to talk about that in just a minute.
Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. NBA teams are preparing for the NBA playoffs, and now's the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. You can download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. And then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scores to threes made, especially if you're watching the Warriors play or betting on the Warriors. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with the same game parlays. So don't miss your chance at a no-sweat first bet. Up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels and Locked On Rangers your first listen today. And we're very happy to be doing a crossover between Locked On Angels and Locked On Rangers with our friend Brice Paterik. And of course, if you're on the Rangers side and you're meeting us for the first time, I'm John. That's my brother Mike. We're the Super Halo Bros and the hosts of Locked On Angels. Now, Brice, you got some questions for us. What do you want to know about the Angels? Anything and everything is on the table, my friend. Let's go.
All right, I have prepared many questions, many including ones for one Artie Moreno that y'all talked about on the other show.
You listened to our episode yesterday.
I did. It was a great show. Much respect, y'all have a great show, and I like to learn. Got to learn about the enemy before you can understand them.
That's right. That's right.
Truly hate them. You know, I want to hate y'all for who you are, not who I think you are.
We appreciate that.
So anyway, my first question is about free agency. I kind of expected the Angels to be kind of big players around those like star players at the top of the market. There's obviously, it felt like there was a little bit of a need at shortstop, and I thought that maybe one of those guys might be Angels. Was that something that y'all were thinking that the Anaheim of Los Angeles of whatever city Angels were going to do? Or were you kind of like, yeah, I knew that this wasn't going to be something that they pursued?
Well, I mean, gosh, there was 4 big shortstops out there, right? And it was definitely a need for the Angels, but I can't say we were super confident they were going to go out and get anybody. I think Dansby Swanson was the most likely out of those 4. And really, I mean, there were so many needs, and obviously shortstop is one of them. But I think from the beginning of the offseason, their plan was to supplement other areas of need and then kind of roll with guys who can play short but aren't necessarily shortstops. And also, I think they're really excited about Zach Neto, our number 1 pick from 2022. He's going to be playing shortstop. He's going to be one of those prospects who sticks at shortstop. So I think that's kind of the long-term game plan there. Mike, what do you think?
Well, and what the Angels really needed, Brice, was meat on the bone. We've got Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout, and then John and I. I mean, like, that's literally the gap between all the players. So we needed meat on the bone, and that's what they went to go and get with the money that they spent. Even bullpen money, we needed meat on the bone. We have 2 guys in the bullpen that are making as much money as Raisel Iglesias was making with us last year, and they're going to be really key pieces to this team. And so I'm really grateful for the moves that Perry Minasian has made, because we really found ourselves in a position that, I mean, we joke about John and I playing, but it was literally that last year with guys like Jose Rojas, and then we're picking up guys off the waiver wire just to fill a spot. This year is going to be very different. Hopefully we avoid the injuries, but this year will be very, very different because we have major league ready and really good major league ready ball players on this team.
And that goes to another point of, like, over the last few years, it's been, hey, we have Rendon. Oh, he's hurt. Now we go from tier A to tier D. And that's why the Angels have consistently failed, especially over the last 2 years, is there's nobody to back those guys up. And so then they bring in Brandon Drury on an affordable 2-year deal. They bring in Gio Urshela to play third or second or first. They bring in Hunter Renfroe to really solidify the outfield and not really rely on guys who they're excited about but haven't been proven. Like last year, we started out with Joe Adell and Brandon Marsh. Brandon Marsh is with the Phillies now. Joe Adell will likely start in AAA. And so I think Perry Minasian's biggest need was, we need proven talent who's done this before, especially if there's injuries, so that we have the pieces to back those guys up. So we're no longer going from tier A in Rendon to tier D with somebody from AAA or who just came off the waiver wire.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. And I think I was actually like, I really liked what the Angels did this offseason. I was like, oh, this isn't what they normally do. This is like smarter and different. Oh,
it's because Artie was selling the team, and so he let his baseball people do baseball things. He didn't interfere this year.
How about that?
It's wild how that works. You know, when you let the guys who actually know about the thing do the thing. Yes. It's just like, I want this guy. Go get that one. Which, you know, in retrospect, I really wanted Anthony Rendon. I was very upset when the Rangers didn't get him. But, you know, looking back, I'm like, you know what? It worked out all right. But speaking of players who I would like to be on the Rangers, maybe this one might be. What is more likely? Shohei Ohtani gets traded before the deadline, or he re-signs with the Angels?
I don't think that he gets traded at all. I think that if we're going to pick one out of the other, I'm going to say he re-signs with the Angels, or they just let him go to free agency, because I think even if they're somewhat close at the trade deadline, they got to go for it with
Mm-hmm.
Shohei Ohtani. And I think the Phillies from last year are a great example of why you got to go for it, because that team was struggling. And then they ran into us and we were in the midst of our losing streak. And so you're welcome, Philadelphia, for allowing your team to get hot. But truthfully, I think the Angels have to go for it, and they got to figure out how to re-sign Shohei. If they don't and he goes to free agency, I know that the fans are just going to dump on the Angels, but reality is I think you got to go for it with this guy because he's a once in a lifetime talent, and we've got him, and we got to try to win with him.
Yeah, I don't see any reason to sacrifice, 2.5, 3 months more of Shohei Ohtani if you're close, right? And so they have to go all in. I think this is the kind of team you can go all in with and feel comfortable about. And even at the trade deadline, they've often been sellers. I think even if they're playing around 500 ball, they got to figure out who they need to get them back to the winning ways around the trade deadline, if that's the case.
Yeah, and I think that is definitely the case. I kind of see the other point of view of like, well, if we know for sure that we're going to lose him, which I don't know. I don't think anybody knows. I think he's the biggest. I think he's going to be the most important and fun and wild free agency we've seen in like any of the major sports. Yeah, absolutely. Like I have no idea what he's going to get. I wouldn't say like $500 million is out of the question. Like
right.
No.
He might get more than that, honestly.
Yeah.
Like it's insane. But he has been an absolute joy to watch, and it's been fun to watch him and Mike Trout on teams that, haven't really been beating down the Rangers too much. I mean, they have, but like the Rangers haven't had expectations while they're doing it, so that makes it a little bit easier.
You can watch Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani and not be mad about it at the end of the day.
Exactly. That's what it was. I mean, I wanted Shohei so badly when he was coming out of Japan, and it felt like the Rangers were really, really close on getting him. And gosh, I'm just imagining that beautiful future where so many things don't go wrong for the Texas Rangers, and Yu Darvish and Shohei Ohtani are leading the top of that rotation.
Oh my, yeah. That'd be fantastic.
Nice. But, that's not where we are, unfortunately. Of the free agents that the Angels were close on, one of the guys who they did get, actually, there was a lefty who they didn't get from the Rangers. It's Martin Perez. There is one who they did get in Matt Moore. What are your early views on Matt Moore? I know I gave y'all a little bit of the scoop of what I thought about him. What have y'all seen from him? What are you excited about him bringing? Was it a 2-year deal or was it a 1-year deal?
2 years, right?
Okay.
Or 1 year?
It was just a 1-year deal.
1 year deal. Okay.
Just a 1-year deal. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
And a major league $2 million deal. I actually really like Matt Moore. I've liked him for a long time. And I think what we needed in our bullpen was some length. And we've got Aaron Loop and we've got Ryan Tepera, and they didn't perform terribly last year, but it feels like they did perform terribly last year because this team performed terribly. But now with a guy like Carlos Estevez and Jimmy Herget in the bullpen, former Ranger,
Ranger, great.
Right. And so these guys have really done well. I think what he brings to our team is he brings a lot of length and somebody that I think we can use for specific situations. We've got a guy named Jose Quijada who has a really great fastball, but his secondary pitch is not intimidating. And so I think we needed another lefty in that pin, or just another arm in that pin that knows how to pitch late in the game and isn't going to be somebody that can be quickly figured out. And so that's why I really like this move.
We were clamoring for another lefty because we knew the Angels were looking for one. And all offseason, I was thinking, oh, Andrew Chafin. Then we were talking about who the available bullpen pieces were. And then we did a comparison with Chafin and Matt Moore. And I convinced myself, I went, oh, I think I want Matt Moore now. And it's probably about a week later they signed him.
John has the ability to speak it into existence. Yes. I don't know what it is, man, but he spoke Tyler Anderson into existence and Matt Moore into existence. And so
first place Angels, second place Rangers. How about that?
Honestly,
speak it into existence.
As long as the Rangers make the playoffs, I don't care. All the time, like, oh, there's no way the Rangers are going to win the AL West. I don't care. They haven't been to the playoffs since 2016. Get me in there, even if it's by a tiebreakers scenario. Like, I don't care.
For sure.
But there is one last question. I think this is more of a debate kind of a question. Which of these two rotations do you think is better?
Oof, that's a good question.
That's a really good question. I think obviously we're biased towards the Angels. And so I do want to say this, like, we have a really good rotation. I know the national media doesn't know that. Buster Olney doesn't know that. A lot of people don't know that, but we have a really good rotation. They were strong last year, which was what was really frustrating. because our offense just fell apart last year. But if I'm going to look at it on paper right now, I'm going to lean in the Rangers' direction just because I think they've really solidified the rotation. And you talked a bit about that, but having a Jacob deGrom at the top and then a few guys down with Perez and with Gray, I mean, I would love to have that rotation, and I would feel really confident as a Rangers fan, if I was a Rangers fan, about the season, because I think that pitching matters, obviously. And if the Rangers, they always seem to hit, they just need to get that pitching fixed. And I think that they did that this offseason.
Yeah, I think about the Rangers rotation and its experience, right? Like all of the guys you have in that rotation have, a lot of innings behind them, and that's a really good thing. They might be older, but still have the experience, still have the know-how. I think that's one thing that the Angels have improved upon, like Reed Detmers and Patrick Sandoval and even Jose Suarez. I think those guys have taken massive steps forward as young pitchers. But the thing about the Rangers is that you guys have so many good arms waiting in the wings too. Like you're going to be a pitching factory. And to an extent, the Angels have a lot of arms waiting in the wings that we're excited about as well. But man, I really think when we get Shohei Ohtani versus Jacob deGrom, that's going to be the matchup of the year, man. So I'm really looking forward to that. I think my bias is overtaking me, but I really am excited about our Angel rotation. So I think I'm leaning Angels for this one.
Honestly, I'm kind of split because last year looking at the Angels and what they did, especially at the end of the season and kind of looking at where all the teams, different teams stacked up, and I'm like, how did the Angels finish with that record? Right, the rotation was really good, and I kind of knew it at the time. I don't think people realize how good Patrick Sandoval is. Reed Detmers has some really awesome moments. Jose Suarez, obviously, Shohei, then adding Tyler Anderson, just kind of getting that depth. It feels like I don't know, maybe it's just my own biases and all the talk about, all these, the Rangers did sign a bunch of guys who do have a bunch of, injury history and they are older. And I mean, there's different caveats with that, but I'm really neck and neck on both of these. Obviously, Jacob deGrom is amazing. Shohei Ohtani is amazing. It just kind of depends on how numbers 2 through 4 in the Rangers rotation stack up. If Martin Perez is pretty much the same pitcher that he was last year, then I think that's going to be a huge difference maker that I don't think people are realizing. I kind of lean towards the Rangers, but I am really, really neck and neck because this Angels rotation, it's really good, and it kind of worries me about how good this AL West is going to be.
Well, that's a good transition into, kind of our last topic is who are we worried about the most? Who is our biggest rival? Who do we think we have a chance against? Brice, how do you feel about the AL West in general and where your Rangers stack up against them?
I feel like the Rangers stack up pretty well. I mean, everywhere is picking them to finish fourth in the division, somewhere of 75 to 78 wins, which people don't realize that how much the Rangers team improved last year. That's one of the things that I feel doesn't get, it gets overlooked a lot. The Rangers had an absolutely horrendous record in one-run games. Their Pythagorean record, so their expected wins and loss with runs scored versus runs allowed, was 77 and 85. Their actual record, 68 and 94. So they were a better team. They just had some really tough bullpen outings, and starting pitching was rough. But obviously, it's the Houston Astros. There's not been much of a rivalry there since the Astros came over. One of the Rangers or Astros have been absolutely trash outside of 2015 and 16, which was a lot of fun when the Rangers won back-to-back divisions, when everyone thought, oh no, this is the Astros time, they're going to do it. And old Jeff Bannister and the last two Rangers playoff teams winning those AL West pennants or whatever. And we don't have to talk about what happened in the playoffs after that, but
but you got there.
And it's been kind of annoying to have to watch the Astros be really good and have no rebuttal of just yeah, no, you're really good, and we kind of suck. And don't even get the your only championship was the trash can season. Now they've got a real one, and it's okay, that's a real huge bummer.
Yeah,
right. I just feel I'm just going to say it. I feel like the Mariners are kind of overrated. I know that they've put some good players on the field.
Join me on this hater side.
Yes.
We're joining. We're joining members.
Here's my thing. When you break it all down, I know that we have less games against the West, especially with the fact that we're playing
fewer games.
Yeah, fewer games, right? And the fact that we play more of the, NL teams, and we're playing every single team. But I also think that with the improvements that the Angels have made, the improvements that the Rangers have made, it's a very tough competition. And then you've got the A's, who always seem to like have a team of no names that just put it all together. And they might not be successful, but they'll certainly take a few wins away from you over the course of a season. And
fellas, can I tell you that's the team that actually makes me the most nervous?
Honestly, I feel that too. It's just like no matter what the A's have, like they're going to be so annoying, and they're probably not going to lose 100 games, and they're going to just bother the crap out of you no matter who they've got on there.
Yeah, and that's why we're going to have to play really well against the West, because we have less games against them. And so I think those games against the Oakland A's specifically are going to have to be 2 out of 3. We can't lose any of those series because Mariners are going to be tough. It seems like you guys will be tough. Houston's always going to be tough. And so we're going to have to be really wise about where we're at with the Oakland A's and being sure that we can actually take the series, because our struggle as the Angels team, we've really struggled against the West, and we've never really had winning records against teams. I mean, against the Mariners, it's been great. We were 10-9 last year.
But then without Mike Trout for like 5 of those games.
Yeah. And then we found ourselves struggling against the Rangers and, of course, against the Astros. And so if we can actually finish 500 against our division, that would improve our team immensely.
I just feel like it feels like all the projections have been set in stone. Astros, Mariners, Angels, Rangers, A's. And I just don't agree with that. I think the middle 3 is going to be a toss-up, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
It'd be fun if that top one wasn't the top one.
Right.
Just for me
that would make all the difference.
There's one last thing I wanted to mention. I realized I haven't brought up my Mr. X Factor for the entire Rangers season, who was a guy who had a really, really nice series. His best series of the year was actually against the Angels. Mitch Garver, who people forget exists. Sometimes even I forget he exists because he only caught until like May 8th.
I had him on my fantasy team, so I didn't forget about him. And then he was out. Wow. He was out until the rest of the season, so it's like I was bummed.
Yeah, and I think he's going to be a huge part in what the Rangers do. Their success level, like people forget like how great he can be when he's healthy. Like he had 30 home runs in 90 games in 2019. Like that could be a huge difference maker, and not having to ask him to catch a million games while having Jonah Heim there, having him be like the primary DH. Like, man, I've gone into full homer mode, but
that's actually a good point, because maybe for Rangers fans who want to know this, I feel like, Mike, you might agree with me. Our X factor is probably either Taylor Ward or Hunter Renfroe.
Oh, for sure.
And the thing about having those guys is you got Taylor Ward leading off, you've got Mike Trout second, Ohtani third, Rendon fourth. Then they've got Hunter Renfroe fifth, who has hit close to 30 home runs over the last 5 seasons. And then the other day they had a spring training lineup where it was like, oh, this could be the opening day lineup. Jared Walsh was batting 7th. And and in the last 2 years, he was always 5th or 6th or, towards the front half. And so I think what the Angels have done is extended their lineup and made it more of a full lineup. And so I really think Hunter Renfroe does that for this Angels team. And then I don't know if you've seen any highlights, but watch Logan O'Hoppe. He's our number 1 prospect catcher. We're very excited about him. He'll probably pair up with Max Stassi this season. So he's somebody that Ranger fans will want to watch too.
Oh, absolutely. This is going to be a fun year for the AL West. It's going to be absolute chaos, and I am really looking forward to it.
Love the chaos.
I love the chaos. Bring it all. Bring all the chaos.
Hey, well, this has been really fun. Brice, thanks for doing this crossover with us, and thanks for inviting us on Locked On Rangers to talk to you about our Halos, man.
Absolutely. Anytime, y'all, are an absolute pleasure. Wishing y'all all the best of luck in every game that is not against the Rangers.
Yes, same to you.
We wish you no luck.
What a jerk. We're not invited anymore.
What a great conversation with Brice. We really appreciate him joining us on Locked On Angels. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen every day. Now, for your second listen, check out the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast. You can win your league by listening to Matt and Dom every single day. They're going to bring you some of the best fantasy draft strategies. Find Locked On Fantasy Baseball wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Be sure to give us a follow at Locked On Angels on Twitter and at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. We'd love to hear from you there. You're going to want to do that because tomorrow is a Fan Mail Friday, right, Mike?
Yeah, I can't wait to hear what you have to say about spring training, about maybe the WBC, about Artie Moreno. Give us all your thoughts, all your questions. We'll answer those tomorrow on Locked On Angels. And you can call us. Don't forget about that, 714-409-6396. Can't wait to hear from you tomorrow for Fan Mail Friday on Locked On Angels.
Looking forward to that, and we hope you'll come back and join us for that. In the meantime, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Thanks for being here with us, and we'll see you back here for more Locked On Angels tomorrow.